Welcome to the Other People's Kids podcast, a podcast about my dad and his friend Andy's adventures in fostering and adoption.
How are you? Hello.
Hello, Andy. I'm very well, thank you. Although I have, since very early this morning, had an earworm. Do you know what an earworm is? Not literally a worm, but a song that you hear that gets into your head, you can't get it out. Can you guess, Andy, which song I've got in my head since this morning that I can't get rid of?
Can't get it out of my head.
Can you guess which song?
Think about earworms.
No, it's Streets of London. And why might that be, Andy?
My children have been singing it at school, which is now in my head, so I've been singing it around everywhere.
And so you thought you'd send me a recording of you singing it?
It's only a snippet. I didn't send you the whole song.
I've had it in my head. Oh, so they just brought back on my childhood of sitting on a wooden floor.
Seen the old man.
I think it was
The streets of London.
Was it Mrs. Auchin who used to sing it in Oakfield? One of the music teachers, Auchin, or Mrs. Batty?
Mrs. Batty.
I'm throwing out some names. We used to sing that a lot, didn't we? We had a deep sense of justice for the homeless in London.
Yeah.
Bedded into us on the south coast of England. Have you watched the Euros? It's been very exciting.
Yes, I know you disapprove, but I won't be shaving until the England team have been knocked out.
Is that the plan?
So, yeah, it's coming along, isn't it?
Wow.
Like proper...
Well, my boys have really enjoyed it. It's kind of brought back memories. So I don't know, did you know that I took my boys to the Women's Euros final 2 years ago?
You did, because you invited me.
I did invite you, didn't I? Have we talked about this on the pod before?
Yes.
Oh. But it's brought back memories of that anyway, of kind of the excitement. And now that we're filling up, we're playing a bit better.
I was at a barbecue with some mates. Was it Saturday the last game? Saturday.
I think so.
But I left at the start of extra time and I drove half an hour back home and I got to the end of the second half and then penalties. And both children were in the lounge and they both enjoyed it. But apart from that, they didn't really care.
It was a better game to watch. It was getting
Much better.
It was very exciting with the penalties as well. And I thought, seeing some of the people who took penalties who had got so much hassle after the final last time, I was really pleased.
Yeah.
My update of the week is I got into an argument with a receptionist at Jump. Just go to Jump or Boing.
Is that a bouncy thing?
These warehouses where they have trampolines and blow-up things, and you pay loads of money, and your kids disappear for an hour and come back really sweaty and happy.
Yeah.
Generally. This is what you like. So I went along, and we've been previously, so we were there with our boys, and also with a boy we used to foster, who we hang out with and see. He's really nice, lovely, see him every few months. Lovely. So we'd been previously to a different one of these Leap, Boing, Buzz kind of things. And so we had the socks. We thought, well, we're not paying for more socks. We've already got the socks with the grippies. The socks you get with stuff on the bottom.
Yeah.
So we brought those along.
Yeah.
And at the end, we paid to go in, our booking. They said, have you got your safety socks? I said, I've got my safety socks. You're not taking any more money from me. And so I got whipped them out of the bag. And she looked at me and said, I'm sorry, sir. Those ones haven't been health and safety checked. I was like, you what? They're exactly the same. They're a different colour, but they're a sock with rubbery bits stuck on the bottom. I was like, what with health and safety? It's the same thing. They're just a different colour. She said, no, we can't be sure that those ones are health and safety checks for our equipment. So apparently, if you go to a different bouncy place, their equipment requires a different kind of rubber or some sort of different colour sock in order to maintain safety. Now, a more suspicious person might say they're just trying to take my money. What do you think?
I agree they are. I tend to not to argue. I do pay the money.
Well, that's the thing. I get indignant, but I'm quite quick to back down because I can't be bothered with an argument.
So what did you say?
I just never mind. I had out my money because I'm British. I don't want a scene.
But you led this little segment saying you started an argument.
Well, if I made an argument in my mind. In my mind, I was raging. I was like, you flipping idiot. You're trying to steal my money, corporate. And in my outwardly, I probably just looked a bit disgruntled. Oh, okay then. It is just pay the money. Oh, it is ridiculous. All socks with rubber on are the same.
Yeah.
So now we've got an ever-growing collection. I think we've got 3 different varieties of these things.
Yeah, I've got blue ones. I've got luminous green ones. I think we've got at least 2 sets of them. But of course, I don't know where they are. So every time I go, I still buy a new pair anyway. The worst for me, my boy can't be left alone because he just starts fights. So I have to bounce with him. So I don't have the luxury of you just going off to the cafe. I have to buy socks and then lose them and buy them every single time I go.
That's so good. I did bounce once. I went once. I went on trampolining, and me at my age and my physical state led to some issues with my back. I thought that I'd been squashed by a lorry, and my whole back just went stuff. And I had weeks of pain afterwards. So I'm not keen to return.
It's quite good for the core.
Yeah, I have a big core, but it's not very strong. So what have we been doing this week, Andy? What have you been?
So I have met with an amazing guy called Matt, who's an adopter, and his story actually really similar to mine. So it's really interesting to meet another adopted dad. But yeah, why don't we hear more of Matt?
We should. And before we do, interestingly, we didn't know Matt, did we? So he's heard the show and has emailed us.
He's found the show,
which is quite exciting for us because so far it's been kind of trying to hope people we know might get in touch. Actually, he's a fan of the show, doesn't know us, isn't being paid, and he wants to come and talk to us, which is amazing.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, right, let's listen.
Hello, welcome Matt to the podcast. Really great to see you again. We had a little chat last week just to meet, and you were the first person, I think, ever to write into the podcast. So thank you so much. How have you found the podcast so far?
Oh, it's been brilliant. I'm really sad that I'm the only person that's written. I'm sure that's just you're just trying to butter me up. So I'm absolutely love the podcast, and I think for me it's just. As an adopted dad, as you'll find out, I guess, I just felt the whole thing to be really cathartic, you know?
Yeah.
When you're walking the dog and you're out of the house and you're just wanting to get a little bit of, inside info, someone else who's walking the same journey, just absolutely brilliant. I couldn't thoroughly recommend it more.
Right. Well, it's great to meet you, and it's great to meet you as an adopted dad. We are rare breed. You stumble across us now and again. I actually stumbled across some adopters very out of the blue at a climbing thing my kids were doing a few weeks ago, and the kids were just chatting and we discovered they were all adopted. So, brilliant. Then start chatting, but it is rare. But why don't you tell the pod listeners a bit about your family situation at the moment? Tell us more where you are.
Yeah, well, right now, my wife and I are 9.5 years into the adopted journey. And so in 2015, a little boy and a little girl came to live with us. The girl was 5 and the boy 2.5. And we actually only wanted the girl, but the kind of agency, the social worker said, no, you can't have her without him. So we'll go on then. And so here we are, 9.5 years on. My son was recently 12, and my daughter is 14.5, going on 16. So all good fun.
So 9 years, so you're a little bit ahead of me. I'm kind of a 7-year stint and stretch. Do you feel you kind of got a handle on it? You kind of above it all? Or are you still learning? What?
Totally nailed it. Just like my marriage, perfect. No, it's honestly, it is a learning journey, and I guess like loads of families, you as you grow and you develop and your characters change, life circumstances come and go. You have to roll with it. You have to adapt. Have to be open to change, and honestly, we feel like we're learning all the time, learning about each other, learning about what makes family work, just learning about how do we relate to families around us, and even into the kind of wider setting, really. So definitely not nailed it. I don't think you ever quite do you?
We never will. We never will do it. A bit like marriage, we're always still learning through our mistakes. It'd be good to hear more about your kind of background and story. So why and how did you become an adopted dad? Tell us more.
Yeah, I guess as a kid, I grew up thinking one day I'm going to be a dad. I've got a fantastic background, childhood, mum and dad that loved me and my sister. Same true for my wife. And so we've had excellent upbringings, I'd say. And I think the fascinating thing about that is that you kind of take forward the things of your own childhood into your life. And I think seeing my dad raise a family, raise me, I want to be, if I make it half as good a job as my own mum and dad have done, then I'll be pleased. And so my wife and I were married in 96. In fact, no, 94. I can't get that wrong, can I? Yeah. We're actually celebrating 30 years of marriage this September. So we're going to go somewhere child-free and hot. But we were, we as any normal couple, finding our way in life, holding down jobs, newly married, thinking about starting a family. And for us, it just didn't seem to happen. Like, as you probably had the same experience as me, perhaps, but lots of our friends of our similar age started to pop babies left, right, and centre. And whilst we were delighted, we were also seething with jealousy. How can you guys be having babies and us not? We're also. I can definitely remember people saying to me, "When are you going to have a baby?" One guy even said to me, "It's about time you started to think about having a family." You know, him not knowing our circumstances of trying out. Don't get me wrong, the trying's fun, but it does get a bit boring after a while. And so in the end, we went to the doctors, and it transpired that between the two of us, we had some issues that were a bit difficult to resolve. And so we went through the journey of what should we do about that? Should we just lead kind of child-free lives? We did that for a season. We did all the beach holidays over the whole globe, and that even gets boring, believe me. And so we decided to investigate IVF, like many couples that struggle to conceive. That is one option open to us. And I think when you go into that realm of things, you begin to tackle some of the ethical questions that come at you. And maybe we can touch on that later. But I think having got through those, we tried IVF. We had a couple of rounds of it, both of which failed, sadly. And then we gave ourselves a bit of respite. I think it's quite a tough journey going through IVF and it failing. Very, very tough on my wife, who obviously is taking on the kind of physical things of IVF. And then with all the emotional stuff on top of that, very, very tricky. So it was quite a while, really, after that I suggested that maybe we have a think about adoption. And we went along to an information evening. That's always feels like an excellent first step. Went to a quite well-known agency. And so rather than going to the local authority, we went to an agency. And did an information evening, and they came round to our house afterwards because we expressed interest. And I can remember them saying, "We don't think you're the kind of people who are made out, who are set up for being parents." And we really struggled with that. And we had to take some hard feedback. And I was angry, I was disappointed. I think if it's okay to say, these were things that jarred with the social workers when they started asking me questions about my values, and that's where things became a bit tricky. And so I think they basically drew a line under it, and we had to wait a whole year before we were permitted to apply to another agency, which we did. And I'm pleased to say that the social workers similarly came to meet us, and we had a fantastic experience, and really felt like the social workers wanted to know about us as individuals, us as a married couple, our context. They wanted to ask us about our values, our finances, and to our delight, they said, "We'd love to take you on." And so we embarked on the training process of becoming approved adopters, which, as you know yourself, is quite a moment and very taxing in all sorts of ways. And so we got to the point of being approved within about 18 months, which is very exciting for us.
Yeah, fantastic. It's interesting about two different agencies had a completely different take on you as a couple and your kind of lifestyle or values or choices, and they came to two completely different conclusions. That's really interesting.
It is, and I think this kind of, I guess, exposes some of the nuances of the values of different agencies. I guess, with our first experience was one where the people that were interviewing us just didn't like it. I don't know. I don't know how else to express it. And those through the agency in which we were successful were delighted, more than happy and thrilled. So tough.
And that whole second process took about 1.5 years, you said, to get approved. So then, when you were approved, how long did it take to get presented with children? I hate that kind of phrase, presented with children, but it is a bit odd, isn't it? You are showing profiles and reports about children. When did that start happening, and how did that happen?
Yeah, it was a matter of months before we suddenly found ourselves on the merry-go-round of thumbing through magazines with little biopic of children that were waiting to be adopted. And wow, those were heart-wrenching evenings where we were just looking at one magazine after another and just making little marks on the pages, the ones that we like the look of, which just sounds crass, doesn't it? But that was our experience, and we found that probably the most exciting and terrifying moment was being invited to a day out, a superheroes party, where we were invited as potential adopters to go to a hotel in the middle of the country somewhere. There were probably, I would say, 30 sets of adopters. To meet probably 60 children who are waiting for adoptive families, for forever families as we know them. And when I think back, it's just the atmosphere was just crazy. I mean, the high tension of emotion and fun, frankly. I think the social workers did a brilliant job. This was through Bernardo's. And so we went to this day, and I can remember being invited to turn up as a superhero. And so obviously I put on Superman outfit. And my wife was Minnie Mouse. And all the kids were dressed up as well,
right?
And so they all had their gear on, and we were literally just told to go and enjoy yourselves, go and engage with these little children, these little bundles of life, and then we'll report back and we'll see what happens. And it was just an amazing thing. Interestingly, the couple of kids that we ended up adopting, who were full siblings, by the way, they were the very first two children that we engaged with. But they weren't necessarily the only two that we found interesting and fascinating. So I can remember thinking about a couple of brothers that were very appealing to us. And so, to be told a couple of weeks later that the social workers came back and they said, we think that this little boy and this little girl will be a great match for you and your family. And then began the process of matching. Which is again another roller coaster of a journey, thrilling, terrifying, exciting, all the emotion.
And did you say coming into the process you had a concept when you were going to adopt a child to have one? And was it a girl? Did you say was that your kind of mind's eye? What you were hoping for?
Yes, because I think not for any significant reason. It just felt to us like, wouldn't it be lovely if we just adopted a baby girl? Wouldn't that be a wonderful thing? I don't think we're the only people that would have said that. And to be told, actually, they don't exist. The little baby girls don't exist. They're probably going to be 5, 6, 7 years old, and they probably come with a brother or another sister. This is the state of play. When we adopted 9 years ago, there just weren't little blonde baby girls. There were all sorts of mixed opportunities and options for adopters, and so you had to come to terms with that very quickly. And I guess at that point, something hit home for my wife and I. I think if we're honest, we would say that parenthood, in some way, felt like a rite of passage, like this is something that you deserve or should happen. And I've come to know that is just not the right attitude at all. If you go into adoption with that attitude, it'll get sniffed out quickly, and rightly so, because at the end of the day, we want to create a family for children that have had a difficult start, but a bright future. That's what we want for our kids. And that means that our focus is them and not us. And the quicker you come to terms with that, the better. Don't go into adoption if it's to satisfy a need in you. I think that's the message. And to be fair to Bernardo's, they were quite clear about that from the start. And in fact, they invited people to leave the room if they felt that it was, during the training, if they felt, I'm only in this for me and my right and my desires. You've got to be in it for the other reasons, which is an outpouring of care and love and wanting to give kids that have had a tough start a really super destiny, super future. Yeah.
Did Ed or leave the room?
I was tempted at that moment. I think I was dreaming about the Seychelles again,
So Matt, you were very, very similar, if not exact same position than we were. We went from like no children to 2, literally overnight. Tell us what that was like.
Oh, wow. So I think you get this, I don't know how your experience was, but we had to drive quite a long way to go and do the kind of the week of matching, where we went to foster carers' home and we arrived dead early so that we could get the kids out of bed, get them washed and dressed, have breakfast with them, and then take them out for the day and then drop them at tea time. And man, life, that was exhausting. Like, I've never done anything like this before. We've cared for the odd nephew or two, but I think, they just kind of bolt onto your life, or whatever you're doing, they're doing. But no, this was different. This was like proper care. And we could see that foster care was smirking behind us and thinking, you could sit and whispering to each other, no, you don't do it like that. He's not going to like that. No, they were great. Foster carers were magnificent. We loved and appreciated their input. And but that week was totally exhausting. And then I think the week later, the foster carers and the kids came to our house for a day out, and we enjoyed ourselves. We had some fun. We showed them around our house, and we gave them gifts to take away. So we bought these 2 cuddly toys. They've named them Rocky and Olaf. And so Rocky and Olaf went back to the foster carers' home, and then a week later, they came to live with us permanently. I imagine, just like you, my wife and I lay rigid in bed, wide awake all night. They were in separate rooms in the house and fast asleep, and we were just lying in bed thinking, there are 2 other human beings in this house. What on earth have we done? It was a shocking but wonderful moment, and we realised quite quickly that Amazon were not going to take them back. This was it. There was no returns. Yeah. So yeah, it was wonderful. I mean, I think, on the whole, wonderful, but mixed with high emotion.
I remember in my early days, it's 0 to 100 miles an hour and you're full on all day. I remember, the 10, 20 minutes in the shower on my own was the only time that I had for myself, and I would just eke out that shower as long as I could, just to get a bit of me time and a bit alone, got a peace of mind.
Crazy. Well, in my house, we've got a timer on the shower because the kids spend far too long in the shower. They haven't ages. But yeah, it is a crazy time. It really is. It is 100 miles an hour. And we're really fortunate. I think one of the things that the social workers picked up on was the extensive social network that we have. My job in the real world is a church pastor. And at the time, I was looking after a congregation of a couple of hundred people where we live. And I would say that you've heard the phrase, it takes a village to raise a child. I think I would say it takes a church to raise a child. And what I mean by that is the church, not in the traditional sense, but a church in the sense of its community. People who gather together for a common cause, also recognise the strengths and the weaknesses and the needs and the cares of a community. Communities exist all over the place, don't they, of different types. Community that we were engaged with, or are still engaged, very much engaged with, was just one of fantastic love and support. And so the social workers recognised it, and they said that we don't think you're going to have any issues at all. You've got people queuing up to love you, to feed you, to help you in any practical ways that are needed. and we had letters and cards, and it was remarkable, and so really wonderful time. And so I feel like our kids they've not just been added into our family, but they've been added into a community. And as human beings, we need that, don't we? We hanker after it. Even if we would call ourselves introverts, there's still something vital about human existence, isn't there, about being in community in some shape?
Yeah, that's right. I think being, as I'm a part of the church, just the number of people you can demonstrate to the social workers, you've got those friends, those families around who could be part of the support network is a real big tick when you're going through that journey. I know from my chat last week, I knew you were part of a local church. What kind of what role has your personal faith been to approaching adoption? How has it helped you and your family in the decision making you did?
Yeah, I mean, I guess right from the start, really, where I think as a Christian, I would say that one of the things that I've come to terms with is my identity, and I think every human being, whether they call themselves religious or secular or whatever, we do go on a journey of identity, don't we? We want to, who we are, what makes me tick, why do I react like that, all of these things are very important in the human development. And I think that the Christian faith, often very misunderstood, is actually a wonderful journey of working out identity. I believe that I'm made in the image of God. In other words, that there are characteristics about me that are of God. And if that's true, then it's worth looking at and studying and exploring. And we want all of our Christian church community to be on that journey together. And so I think when it came to things like adoption, we've got a very high appreciation for family and family life. Now, I'm not suggesting that if you don't have children, then you don't fit. That's far from that. It doesn't matter what your demographic is. In our church community, we've got lots of single people, lots of elderly people, widows. We've got young kids. We've got 20s. It's a whole range of human life, and we're all on this journey of working out where do I fit in family life. And so it wasn't that difficult a stretch to think about inviting children into our lives, and you could argue that we're inviting strangers into our lives. I mean, my wife and I, prior to adopting, we would regularly have lodges, and believe me, lodges are far harder work than children in some respects. And but we were used to the idea of having people as part of our family setup. My wife and I always described ourselves as a family even before we had children, and so it's about having a high value, high description of family, which I think you find in the Christian world. And so that's what I'd say on that.
Thank you. That's great.
Yeah.
How would your children describe you?
Well, because you kindly sent me some prompting questions yesterday, I sat on the sofa with my daughter, who's 14 and a half and very smart and cheeky. And I said to her, look, here are some questions I'm going to be asked. How would you answer this one? It says here, what do my children say about me? And she looked at me and winked and said, grey-haired maniac.
Okay.
So that's nice, isn't it?
Maniac?
Yeah, I know. It's crazy, isn't it? I think she's referring to the times where I ask her to put her phone down, or it's time for tea now. Come on, we're sitting around the table together as a family.
Yeah.
Well, have you done your homework? Anything that's remotely annoying, brings out these lovely phrases. But no, they love having me as a dad, I think. I mean, one of our experiences very often, because I'm a little bit older, I'm 58, and so I am an older dad. I recognise that. There's not a lot I can do about that. But my hair did go grey, in my defence, when I was 20.
Okay.
And so I've been queuing up for ice creams. I've been in the swimming pool. I've been doing all the dad stuff in the past, and people have definitely said to me, "Oh, it's lovely, isn't it? Day out with your granddaughter." That kind of stuff. I definitely had a lot of "you're the granddad." I've even had my daughter's friends come up to me and say to me, Are you her granddad? And so, well, you just take it on the chin. I roll with those sorts of punches. But I didn't like it to start with, but it is funny. So what they say about me, I think I really hope they love me. We're lots of fun. We're great football fans. We love football. We love jumping up and down. And in this season of football right now on the TV, we're screaming at the television together. It's been great fun. So
fantastic. Just finally then, Matt, thinking about your adoption journey and becoming an adopted dad, what would you say are the best bits and the most kind of challenging bits of our whole thing?
Sure. Let me start with the challenging bits. I think that the coming to terms with the fact that these children are not my blood children. I think that's one thing I've had to come to terms with. And in the brilliant journey of that, I've come to realise that children, whether they're your own or not, you don't own them. They are not objects of ownership, but they are a beautiful gift. I mean, I go so far as to say the Bible that I trust tells me that children are a gift, and they are like arrows in the quiver, which is the bag that holds the arrows that you get one day to fire into the world, and they're going to become their own beautiful human beings doing their own thing and going on their own journeys. And so my job is to fashion them in such a way that they fly straight. And so I've come to realise that the best bit about being a dad, and my wife being a mum, is the privilege of being able to fashion them. Not in a domineering way, but a way that brings out their beautiful characters, their gifts and their skills, and being able to cheer them on, in that way. And so those were the best bits. I do love being a dad. Again, I'm going to say something about how faith interfaces with that, and that would be that being a dad has helped me understand the fathering of God of me. When my children mess up, how do I react? Do I just love them with grace? Or do I condemn them and send them to the corner? What's God like? How does God treat me? Well, he doesn't send me to the corner. He's got grace for me. And I want to be that kind of dad. I want to be the best bit about being a dad is being able to show mercy and grace. I think it was Joey that said they have a just because little phrase, don't they, in their family? Oh, we love that. We love that, and I think, giving our kids gifts for no reason, just because we love them, an absolute joy. Worst bits? Okay, here we go. Look, parenting is parenting, and we're parenting children that have got developmental trauma. And what I mean by that is that in their early lives, some aspects of their experience has left them with some bad wiring, shall we say, in the brain. And it's rectifiable, but it's going to take a long time. And it's been 9.5 years already, and we're only just beginning to see what some of the problems are. And it's hard. We have to admit that our parenting from time to time looks a bit weird. I've had people say to me, what he needs is a clip around the ear. Well, no, that's not what he needs. Not what he needs at all. He needs to be loved. He needs, even if he doesn't want a hug, he's going to get one, And I think that's been tough. And of course, most of our experience of parenting, the bad bits, have been more inconvenient to us than to the child, So often parenting is just inconvenient, And so when you're parenting with a twist like we are, we've got to think differently, we've got to act differently. And sometimes that's going to look weird. And so I don't like it when people try to correct me in my parenting. I'll stand and smile and listen, but I think I know what I'm doing. And, we're learning all the time. I will just give a plug for Beacon House. Beacon House is a fantastic therapeutic centre, and they're based in the south of England. And through the Adoption Support Fund, my wife and I have been able to access some therapeutic parenting for ourselves. So very regularly, my wife and I meet with a counsellor who just helps us to learn how to cut ourselves some slack, helps us to be curious about the reactions of our children in different situations. And rather than coming down like a ton of bricks on certain behaviour, just back off and ask ourselves questions about why and what's going on, what feeling is happening in our child's heart in that moment. What can we do to help them either regulate again or try to articulate what's going on inside them? That's hard. That's really hard. And so, the parenting, the therapeutic parenting at Beacon House has been outstanding. Around 50% of the families that they counsel, that they work with, would be children of adopted families. And that doesn't surprise me at all. I get it, and so they're absolutely superb. Both of my kids have got a therapist each, and who they regularly see as well. And whilst we often wonder what on earth are they doing in the room for an hour, we're beginning to reap the benefits. We're beginning to see process of trust being built, and just their little hearts being exposed and beautifully and tenderly cared for. And we're absolutely thrilled by that. Really.
Thank you, Matt. I really love that, because I think one of the pluses about adoption, obviously, there is a lot of repairing and a lot of work that needs to be done with them therapeutically, emotionally, socially. But there are options there to speak into that and to really practically try to go and solve some of those issues. I just think some of the children from, regular families who have lots of different issues, they never get the intervention, therapy or rebound therapy or play therapy, lots of things which our kids can have access to. And that's great. But there is a lot of work to be done. But it's been really great hearing more about your story. Thank you for sharing. Other than listening to this podcast diligently, is there any other resources, any books you would recommend any adopters read and check out?
Oh, for sure. I think the first thing I'd say is check out an organisation called Home for Good, and they are just outstanding in their vision of finding a home for every child that needs one. They also have excellent resources. If you are a community organisation, they've just been really outstanding in producing very high quality material that you can use. So an excellent portal for accessing all sorts of excellent resources.
Yeah.
They have had in the past some great conferences as well for adoptive families, for fostering and adoption. I don't want to miss out on fostering at all. But one other thing that they've done really fruitfully where I live has been to engage with the local council, and they have produced some outstanding faith literacy training for council workers that are engaged in adoption and fostering. To the point where the council have come to my church in particular and said, we want to work with you. I consider that to be a miracle. From past experience, it's been the reverse. And so absolutely thrilled about that. And so, Home for Good have done some terrific things. I think other authors like Dan Hughes and Louise Bomba have written great books on trauma. And helping you to understand it. I think the Other People's Kids podcast is a brilliant place to come as well.
Hey.
So those have been my immediate take homes for sure.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing, Matt. All the best with your future adoption journey. I'm sure we'll touch base and speak again sometime in the future. Thanks very much for your time.
Cheers. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Bye for now.
Bye.
That was Reverend Matt. Thank you, Matt, so much for your time. Joe, what did you think about his story?
Is he a reverend then? He said he was a pastor. Is that the same thing?
I don't know. Priest,
Minister,
the Lord
guy. That's good. Yeah, no, I really liked it. I think I was my initial response was I was quite taken aback by his just honesty and openness. So, talking about things like failed IVF, talking about being turned down by an adoption agency initially. I thought I really appreciate his openness, because these are experiences that a lot of people have when they're thinking about adoption. So as foster carers, we've worked with adopters and they've had those similar experiences. So I think it's really helpful to hear those spoken out, to hear that experience. Definitely. No, really good.
I think particularly with adoption, the journey can be very long and very winding. You might think, it's this route or this road, and then it gets closed or stopped, and you go, I've got to go this way. And it can be quite a twisty journey for everyone.
Yeah, and he was just really honest about that, which I thought was really good, and kind of almost developed over time. So him sort of saying how they've gone from seeing parenthood as like a right, we have a right to have children, to realising that actually having children is a gift, not to be taken for granted. And I think they've obviously learned that through their journey. I thought that was really powerful, kind of going from, the beaches. What did he say? He was going around to spend all his time on beaches. They did all the beach holidays.
Around the world, yeah.
Yeah, they didn't kind of meet that need. So for them, they really felt they wanted to be parents, and they couldn't kind of match that in any other way. And so adoption became this sort of, because unlike you, because adoption for you was like plan A, wasn't it?
Totally.
I think for Matt, obviously, adoption's come after considering some other options that haven't worked out. Yeah, brilliant. I liked as well, he was talking about going to the matching event as well, because I think we vaguely mentioned that. So when we talked about that BBC programme, they go to a matching event, don't they? The superheroes one. As it's interesting, because I've not met an adopter who's been in that environment, just to hear his reflections on that. And I think he said it's a bit sort of crass, isn't it? That when you're either looking at a magazine or selecting these kids, it's a bit of a weird environment to be in. Must be.
It's very weird. I mean, we were never offered that as an event, nor I know some people have like a first glimpse. You're familiar with the first glimpse thing, where the social worker will arrange for the foster carers to be at a place. Have you ever done that as foster carers?
Been along to no, we haven't. No, not been.
So
meeting.
Foster carers might take the child or children to McDonald's, for example, and it's organised that the adopters will also go to McDonald's and sit at another table, obviously, and look and have a first glimpse of their children
in the flesh.
In the flesh, which we never had until we met them for the first time.
Wow. Because there is something different, but there's a difference in pictures and video and things like that than actually seeing someone to get the essence of who they are, isn't it? It's quite a big moment.
Because we made our decision to adopt them, yes or no, based on a little grainy black and white photograph.
Wow.
And we said yes. And then the social worker did do some filming of them within their kind of house, which was like, oh, well, they're alive, they're actually moving and talking.
So
it's very weird.
If you went to one of those events, sort of winding back, if you went to a adoption match event, superhero, which superhero would you and your wife dress as?
Well, I can only speak for myself. I'd probably be Ant-Man.
Why Ant-Man?
Why not? Cool.
Is there not like a deeper meaning behind that to do with shrinking? Wanting to shrink away, or get really big? He gets big in the film as well, doesn't he? In Stamps.
He does.
Maybe you're at the jump, and they say, that'll be another £4 for another pair of stupid sticky socks. And you can turn to Ant-Man and stand on them and say, shut up. Just let the kids jump on the trampolines. Stop charging me money.
Jump, go in there and jump, kids.
Just jump. Wear your socks. Wear anything on your feet.
Hold them back.
Examine.
Throwing their socks at them.
I reckon that's why you picked Ant-Man.
I think Aquaman's got quite a cool beard. Maybe I could go on Aquaman.
He is quite cool. He does spend a lot of time with not many clothes on. I'd feel self-aware.
Yeah, I would.
Has got the beard. Who would I be?
Who would you be, Joe?
Oh no!
What about a villain? Could you go as like a villain?
Great look, wouldn't it?
Well, it's a minions.
Is Gru. It's
like Gru.
Thanks. Love you too. Gru becomes good though, doesn't he? He's kind of a good dad in the end, isn't he? In the films, I haven't seen the fourth one yet, but by the third one, he's kind of a good dad, sort of.
Isn't he? A good role model for parenting.
I could be Gru if I got my legs skinny. I could be Gru.
He's got very skinny legs.
Anyway, back to the interview. So the phrase that stuck out for me particularly is he says this phrase. He says, "The focus is on them and not on us." And I really like that. Kind of in the adoption process, it's not about what's going to meet our needs. Which children are going to complete our family and fit into our lifestyle on the beaches or whatever. It's about actually what's best for them. And when we think about matching, yes, it's got to work with us. So you had that experience, didn't you, as well? It's got to work with you and they've got to fit in your family. But ultimately, it's you thinking, how can we adjust our lives around these children? Are we willing to do that? Because that's the focus, isn't it? Is getting it.
That is an amazing piece of advice. Anyone thinking of starting the adoption process or is in it now, I would definitely reflect constantly the needs and putting the child central in every decision making. And that would be the top tip.
Last sort of reflection is towards the end, he talked about the importance of support networks. So for him, obviously being a church pastor, his church is really important as a network of support around him. And it's kind of his village, you know, for that phrase, it takes a village to raise a child. And I thought that was really lovely to hear, actually, how he so benefited that child to be in this sort of wider community of the church. And we both certainly experienced that. So I know with fostering in the past with churches we've been in, the kind of support we've had from others at times has been brilliant, especially when times are a bit tough. And I know that we plan, because we had a request, didn't we, from a listener to do an episode of the pod about support networks, about the role of family and things. So yeah, I'm sure we can include that now, because it could be, it could be a community, could be people you live near, could be family members, could be colleagues at work. All those people have a role to play, don't they, in that network of support?
Well, you can adopt or foster on your own, but I think it's probably easier if you've got a good network around you, friends and family. And if you don't have any family or friends, then do just hang out in bouncy area places.
Exactly. Take all your money.
Yeah, just buy loads of socks and just hand them out to random people and say, they'll be your friend.
It is a serious point, though, is it? Because so I sit on some fostering panels, and one of the things we are looking at often is, support networks, because, as easy as times can be, sometimes when teams are tough, you need either practical help, like who can I trust to look after this child if I'm in hospital or whatever, but also just emotional support when things are really hard. You need someone, whether it's a family member, friend, or anyone. So I think, so people are looking at becoming foster carers, thinking about adoption, certainly think about who your support network are, and let them know, say, we're thinking of adopting. In this process, it's going to be really hard, it's going to be really emotional, really difficult, it might not work out, we don't know what's going to happen. Would you support us? And I think it's really powerful to ask a friend or a family member to be your support, definitely.
Well, thank you, Matt, for taking the time. We would love to speak to more adopters and foster carers within the church. If anyone's listening who wants to share their story, I'm sure we'd love to hear from them.
We would. So email hello@otherpeopleskids.co.uk. Or you can reach us through our Facebook group. So please do follow and like our Facebook group as well. I think the last thing to say then, Ed, is I think Matt definitely, comprehensively deserves to join our special club.
What's our club called?
Our special club is Friends of the Show.
They listen to our show, they laugh at our jokes, they even like our posts, they likely know what a host. It's the Other People's Kids, Friend of the Show. It's the Other People's Kids, Friend of the Show.
So welcome, Matt, to our Friends of the Show club. Very exclusive. There's 2 members currently. I feel that we might have to do a retrospective joining for Stuart, someone who we interviewed a couple of episodes ago. But that was before we'd decided to do this club. And before Joey worked out how to do music AI.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe some sort of badge or pin we can create?
Maybe
our own brand of jump socks.
A brand of Other People's Kids jump socks. Universally usable in every jump area. Any final thoughts, Andy, for the listener?
Go England.
Go England. Yeah, go England. I'm expecting a comfortable win.
Don't say things like that. Why are you saying things like that?
I don't know.
I so want them to win now. Like before, I wasn't bothered. Like I want them to get to a final now.
Well, Andy, I'm manifesting it. That's what these young people do, isn't it? They manifest things to happen.
That's what they say.
Yeah, you manifest it. So you think about it happening, and then it happens. Yes. Well, thanks for listening, everyone. Have a great week.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. Please subscribe, like and follow the podcast. If you want to get in touch, you can email hello@otherpeopleskids.co.uk.
How can you tell me you're lonely and say for sure that the sun don't shine?